The crystal chandelier sparkled above as Maya stood frozen in the doorway of the grand ballroom. Her heart pounded against her chest as dozens of eyes turned toward her. She was late again, and she knew what that meant. Her stepmother's cold stare cut through the crowded room like a knife. "There she is," her stepmother announced loudly, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We were wondering when you'd finally arrive, dear." Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She was 19 years old, but moments like these made her feel like a scolded child. The elegant party was for her stepsister Victoria's engagement, and Maya had spent 2 hours trying to find something to wear that didn't make her feel completely awful about herself. At 240 pounds, finding clothes was always a nightmare. But finding clothes for fancy parties hosted by her stepmother, that was torture. She moved carefully through the crowd, trying to make herself as small as possible, which was impossible given her size. People whispered as she passed. Some pretended not to stare, but she felt every single glance like tiny pinpricks on her skin. Her other stepsister, Catherine, glided past in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Try the shrimp, Maya," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh wait, maybe you've had enough already." Maya's throat tightened, but she forced a smile. This was normal. This was her life now. Ever since her father died 3 years ago, he'd been the only person who truly loved her, who saw past her weight to the person underneath. Without him, she was alone in a house that never felt like home. The party continued around her. Champagne flowed, people laughed, and Maya stood awkwardly by the dessert table, not eating anything despite her stepmother's pointed comments about how she lived at the buffet. She had learned that whether she ate or didn't eat, she would be criticized either way. "Speech, speech," someone called out, and Victoria's fiancé stepped forward with a microphone. Maya thought this would be her chance to slip away unnoticed. She moved toward the seating area, searching for a sturdy chair. Most of the furniture in her stepmother's house was decorative, thin-legged, and delicate. She had learned to test chairs carefully before sitting. She found what looked like a solid wooden chair near the back and lowered herself carefully. For a moment, everything seemed fine. Then came the crack. It started as a small sound barely noticeable under the speech happening at the front of the room. But then the crack became a snap, and suddenly Maya was falling. The chair collapsed beneath her in an explosion of splintering wood that echoed through the entire ballroom. The speech stopped. The music stopped. Everything stopped. Maya lay tangled in broken chair pieces, her dress torn, her body bruised. But worse than any physical pain was the silence that followed. 100 people stared at her in shock, pity, and barely concealed disgust. Then someone laughed. A small giggle that triggered another and another until nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "Oh my God," Victoria shrieked. "That was a genuine antique. Do you know how much that chair cost?" Maya struggled to get up, but her stepmother was already there, not to help, but to tower over her with fury in her eyes. "Get up," she hissed. "Get up right now and go to your room." Maya scrambled to her feet, tears streaming down her face. She ran from the ballroom as fast as her body would allow, hearing whispers and laughter following her all the way up the marble staircase. She locked herself in her bedroom and cried until her head ached. This wasn't the first humiliation, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. But something about tonight felt different. Something felt final. Around midnight, there was a sharp knock on her door. "Maya, we need to talk." Her stepmother's voice was cold and controlled. Maya didn't answer, but the door opened anyway. Her stepmother never really asked permission for anything. "That display tonight was unacceptable," her stepmother began, standing with her arms crossed. "You embarrassed Victoria on one of the most important nights of her life. You embarrassed me in front of my friends and business associates." "It was an accident," Maya whispered. "I didn't mean to. It's always an accident with you, isn't it? Accidents happen when you can't control yourself. When you eat everything in sight and refuse to take care of yourself." Maya bit her lip, tasting blood. She wanted to say that she barely ate anymore, that she was trying, that nothing she did was ever good enough. But what was the point? "I've made a decision," her stepmother continued. "This situation cannot continue. I've spoken with your father's uncle, and he's agreed to take you for the summer." Maya looked up in shock. "Uncle Chen? The farmer?" "Yes, he has a small farm several hours from here, out in the countryside. Perhaps some hard work and simple living will teach you discipline and responsibility." "You're sending me away?" Maya's voice cracked. I'm giving you an opportunity to change, her stepmother corrected. Heaven knows nothing here has worked. Maybe manual labor and no access to endless food will finally make a difference. But I don't even know him. Dad barely talked about him. Well, now you'll get to know him. You leave on Friday. Pack practical clothes, nothing fancy. Where you're going, designer labels won't matter. Her stepmother turned to leave, then paused. Consider this punishment if you want. Or consider it a chance to finally become someone we're not ashamed of. Either way, you're going. The door clicked shut and Maya was alone again. She spent the next 3 days in a fog. Victoria and Catherine seemed thrilled she was leaving, making jokes about her becoming a farm animal and asking if she'd at least be useful for plowing fields. Her stepmother barely spoke to her except to give instructions about packing. No one asked if she wanted to go. No one cared how she felt about being shipped off like unwanted baggage. Friday morning came too quickly. A driver loaded her 2 small suitcases into a black car. Her stepmother didn't come out to say goodbye. Victoria and Catherine waved from an upstairs window, laughing about something. The drive took 4 hours, and with each passing mile, the city disappeared behind them. Buildings became trees. Pavement became dirt roads. Maya watched her old life fade away through the car window, replaced by endless fields and rolling hills. Finally, the car turned down a narrow road and stopped in front of a small farmhouse. It was nothing like her stepmother's mansion. The paint was faded, the porch sagged slightly, and chickens wandered freely in the yard. An old man stepped out of the house. He was thin and weathered, with sun-darkened skin and gentle eyes. He wore simple work clothes and moved slowly, like someone who had spent decades working the land. "You must be Maya," he said softly. His voice was kind, nothing like the sharp tones she was used to hearing. "Yes, sir," she whispered, unable to meet his eyes. "Call me Uncle Chen. Come on. Let me show you your room." He picked up her suitcases like they weighed nothing and led her inside. The house smelled like wood smoke and herbs. Everything was clean but worn, comfortable but simple. Her room was small, with a single bed, a wooden dresser, and a window that looked out over vegetable gardens. It was nothing fancy, nothing like her room back home, but somehow it didn't feel cold or unwelcoming. "I know this isn't what you're used to," Uncle Chen said gently, "but you're welcome here. There's no judgment under this roof." Maya felt tears prick her eyes at the unexpected kindness. "We'll have dinner in an hour. Get settled, rest if you need to. Tomorrow, if you're up for it, I'll show you around the farm." He paused at the door. "Your father was a good man. I see him in your eyes." Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone in the quiet room. She sat on the bed and looked around at her new reality, sent away as punishment, exiled to a farm in the middle of nowhere with an uncle she didn't know. No internet signal, no delivery food, no escape. Maya lay back on the simple bed and stared at the ceiling. She had never felt more alone or more worthless in her entire life. She was supposed to learn discipline here, supposed to change into someone her stepmother could finally accept. But right now, all she felt was lost. Outside her window, the sun began to set over the fields, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In the distance, she could hear Uncle Chen moving around the kitchen, humming an old song, and somewhere deep inside, beneath all the hurt and shame and exhaustion, a tiny voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, this punishment might turn into something else entirely. But Maya was too tired and too broken to listen to that voice yet. The rooster's crow shattered Maya's sleep at what felt like the middle of the night. She fumbled for her phone to check the time and groaned. 5:30 in the morning. Back home, she'd still be asleep for at least 3 more hours. A gentle knock came at her door. "Maya, you awake?" Uncle Chen's voice was soft but clear. She wanted to pretend she was still sleeping, but something about his tone made lying feel wrong. "Yeah, I'm awake." "Good. Get dressed in something you don't mind getting dirty. We've got work to do." "Work?" It was barely dawn. Maya dragged herself out of bed, her body still aching from yesterday's long journey. She pulled on an old t-shirt and jeans, the only casual clothes she'd brought that weren't already too tight. When she stepped outside, the world looked completely different from the night before. Morning mist hung over the fields, and the air smelled fresh and cool, nothing like the city pollution she was used to. Uncle Chen stood by a chicken coop holding a large bag of feed. "Morning," he said with a slight smile. "Sleep okay?" "I guess." Maya mumbled, wrapping her arms around herself. Here. He handed her a smaller container of feed. Scatter this in the pen. The chickens need breakfast just like we do. Maya stared at the container, then at the chickens clucking and pecking around the coop. She'd never been this close to farm animals before. How do I... Just toss it on the ground. They'll do the rest. She opened the container and threw some feed. The chickens rushed toward it in a flurry of feathers and noise, making her jump back. Uncle Chen chuckled quietly. They won't hurt you. They're just excited about breakfast. After the chickens were fed, Uncle Chen led her to the vegetable garden. Rows and rows of plants stretched out before them. Some she recognized and many she didn't. We need to water everything before the sun gets too hot, he explained, handing her a watering can. Start with those tomato plants over there. Maya took the can and quickly realized how heavy it was when filled with water. She carried it to the first row of plants, her arms already burning. By the third trip to refill it, she was breathing hard and sweating. Can we take a break? She asked, setting the can down. Uncle Chen looked at the sun, which was barely over the horizon. We've only just started, but if you need a minute, take a minute. Maya sat on a wooden bench near the well, feeling pathetic. This old man was probably in his 70s and he wasn't even tired. Meanwhile, she could barely water a few plants without needing to rest. I'm not good at this, she said quietly. Nobody is good at anything their first time, Uncle Chen replied, continuing to water his section of the garden. Your father couldn't tell a weed from a vegetable when he first started helping me as a boy. Pulled up an entire row of carrots thinking they were dandelions. Maya looked up in surprise. My dad worked on a farm? Every summer until he left for college. This was his home as much as mine. Uncle Chen paused, his expression softening. He was a good worker once he learned. Patient, determined, never gave up, even when things were hard. Something about those words stung. Maya had given up on herself a long time ago. It was easier than trying and failing over and over. They worked until 8 o'clock when Uncle Chen finally declared it was time for breakfast. Maya's entire body ached. Her hands had blisters forming, her back hurt and her legs felt like jelly. She could barely climb the porch steps. Inside, Uncle Chen prepared a simple breakfast of eggs from the chickens, fresh vegetables from the garden, and homemade bread. Maya expected to be starving after all that work, but she was almost too tired to eat. Eat, Uncle Chen encouraged. Your body needs fuel. The food was plain but delicious in a way that expensive restaurant meals never were. Maya found herself eating slowly, actually tasting each bite instead of mindlessly shoveling food in her mouth like she did at home, when her stepmother wasn't watching. After breakfast, Uncle Chen announced they'd be mending fences in the south pasture. More work? Maya couldn't hide her dismay. Farm doesn't run itself, he said simply. But if you're too tired, you can rest. I won't force you to do anything. Pride flickered in Maya's chest. She didn't want him to think she was lazy or useless, even though part of her just wanted to go back to bed. I can help. The fence work was even harder than the morning chores. They had to carry wooden posts, dig holes, and hammer nails. Maya's soft hands weren't made for this kind of labor. Every movement hurt, but Uncle Chen never complained, never stopped, so neither did she. By lunchtime, she was ready to collapse. The afternoon brought more tasks. Pulling weeds in the herb garden, collecting eggs again, sweeping the barn. Maya moved through it all in a haze of exhaustion, wondering how this was supposed to teach her anything except how much she hated manual labor. That night, she barely made it through dinner before dragging herself to bed. Her phone had a weak signal and she used it to call her stepmother. How's the farm? Her stepmother's voice was cool and disinterested. It's terrible, Maya said, tears threatening. Can I please come home? I've learned my lesson, I promise. You've been there one day, Maya, one day. Call me again when you have something meaningful to report. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, feeling more alone than ever. She tried calling Catherine, but it went straight to voicemail. Victoria didn't even have her number saved anymore. She cried herself to sleep that night, her body aching and her heart heavy. The second day was exactly like the first. Wake before dawn, feed animals, water plants, mend things, move things, clean things. By the third day, Maya could barely get out of bed. Her muscles screamed in protest with every movement. But Uncle Chen was always there, quiet and steady, never pushing but never letting her give up completely either. He showed her how to do things properly, how to lift without hurting her back, how to pace herself so she didn't burn out too quickly. "The work is hard because you're not used to it," he said one morning while they were weeding. "Give it time. Your body will adjust." "I don't want it to adjust," Maya snapped, frustration boiling over. "I don't want to be here. I want to go home." Uncle Chen pulled another weed and tossed it in the bucket. "And do what? Go back to being yelled at? Back to breaking chairs at parties?" Maya flinched. So her stepmother had told him everything. "Your stepmother told me why she sent you here," he continued gently. "But she got one thing wrong. This isn't a punishment, Maya. This is a chance." "A chance for what? To become a farmer? I don't want this life." "A chance to figure out who you are when nobody's telling you who to be." Those words hung in the air between them. Maya didn't know how to respond, so she just kept pulling weeds. The days blurred together after that. Wake up, work, eat simple meals, work more, sleep hard, repeat. Maya stopped calling her stepmother after the third rejection. She stopped checking her social media because seeing everyone else's perfect lives just made her feel worse. But something strange started happening around the second week. The work didn't hurt quite as much. She could carry the watering can without stopping every few minutes. Her hands toughened up, the blisters turning into calluses. She learned which plants were which, how to tell when vegetables were ready to harvest, how to calm a nervous chicken. Uncle Chen rarely spoke unless spoken to, but his presence was steady and non-judgmental. He never commented on her weight, never mentioned how much she ate or didn't eat. He simply treated her like a person, like someone capable of learning and growing. One morning, about 3 weeks in, Maya woke up before the rooster crowed. She lay in bed for a moment, confused about why she felt different. Then she realized she wasn't dreading the day ahead. She was actually looking forward to seeing what needed to be done. She got dressed and found Uncle Chen already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. "You're up early," he observed with a hint of approval. "Couldn't sleep," she said, which was true, but it wasn't the bad kind of sleeplessness she was used to. It was energy, restlessness, readiness. After breakfast, they worked in the garden together. The morning was cool and pleasant, and Maya found herself actually enjoying the rhythm of the work. Pull weeds, clear space, let the good plants breathe and grow. There was something satisfying about it, something that made sense in a way her old life never had. "Uncle Chen," she said suddenly, "why did you agree to take me in?" "My stepmother said you barely knew my dad." The old man was quiet for a long moment. "Your father and I had our differences. He wanted the city, wanted a different life. I respected that. But he was still family. And when family needs help, you help. Simple as that. Even when that family is fat and useless." The words came out bitter. Uncle Chen stopped working and looked at her directly. "You think you're useless? Everyone else does. Then everyone else is blind." He returned to his weeding. "I've watched you these past weeks. You show up every morning. You do the work even when it's hard. You haven't quit even though I can see you want to sometimes. That's not useless. That's strength." Maya felt something crack open in her chest, some tight knot of pain she'd been carrying for years. Nobody had called her strong before. Nobody had seen her efforts as anything but failure. That afternoon, Uncle Chen took her to the local farmers market to sell some of their produce. Maya felt self-conscious walking through the small town, expecting people to stare and whisper like they did back home. But something was different. Maybe it was the casual farm clothes instead of fancy dresses that didn't fit right. Maybe it was the tan she was developing from working outside. Or maybe it was the way she carried herself differently now, with purpose instead of shame. People greeted Uncle Chen warmly, and he introduced Maya as his niece. They welcomed her kindly, asking about life on the farm, complimenting the vegetables. An elderly woman named Mrs. Rodriguez bought tomatoes and told Maya she had her father's smile. On the drive home, Maya realized something startling. She hadn't thought about her weight once the entire day. She'd been too busy thinking about which vegetables sold best, which customers might come back, how to arrange the display better next time. That night, she looked in the small mirror in her room. She looked different somehow. Her face was less puffy, her arms more defined. But more than that, her eyes looked different, less defeated, less empty. She pulled out her phone and checked the scale app she'd been obsessively using for years. She hadn't weighed herself since arriving at the farm. Some part of her was scared to look, scared she'd somehow gained more weight despite all the physical work. But then she thought about Uncle Chen's words. About showing up. About not quitting. About strength. She deleted the app. Her worth wasn't a number on a scale. For the first time in her life, Maya was starting to understand that. And it terrified her almost as much as it gave her hope. The morning Maya realized her jeans were falling off was the morning everything changed. She was feeding the chickens when she had to hitch up her pants for the third time. At first she thought maybe she'd grabbed the wrong pair. But when she looked in the mirror later, she saw the truth. Her face was thinner, her stomach smaller, her arms more toned. 3 months had passed since she arrived at the farm. 3 months of early mornings, hard work, and simple meals. She hadn't been trying to lose weight. She'd been too busy learning how to properly prune tomato plants and fix broken irrigation pipes to think about dieting. But her body had changed anyway. "Uncle Chen," she said at breakfast, "I need to go into town. My clothes don't fit anymore." He looked up from his eggs with a small smile. "I noticed. You've been pulling up those pants all week." They drove to the small town that afternoon. Maya expected to feel the old familiar dread of clothes shopping, but instead she felt curious. What size was she now? She honestly didn't know. In the thrift store, she grabbed a few pairs of jeans in different sizes and headed to the fitting room. The first pair was too big, so was the second. The third pair fit perfectly, and when Maya looked at the tag, she had to blink back tears. She'd dropped 5 sizes, but more than that, when she looked in the fitting room mirror, she saw someone different. Not just thinner, but stronger. Her shoulders had definition from lifting bags of feed. Her legs were muscular from walking the fields. Her skin glowed from being outside in the sun every day. She bought 3 pairs of jeans and some simple shirts, spending the money she'd earned helping Uncle Chen sell vegetables at the market. On the drive back, Uncle Chen said, "Your grandmother would be proud of you." "I never met her," Maya said. "She was a lot like you. Tough underneath all the softness. She built half this farm with her own 2 hands." He paused. "She always said the land teaches you what you're made of." Looks like she was right. Back at the farm, Maya threw herself into the work with new energy. Uncle Chen started teaching her more complex skills. How to build a proper compost system. How to rotate crops for soil health. How to negotiate prices with restaurant buyers in the city. "You're a natural at the business side," he observed one day, after she'd successfully negotiated a contract with a farm-to-table restaurant. "You've got your father's head for numbers." Maya felt a surge of pride. Back home, nobody had ever told her she was good at anything except being a disappointment. The local community started to know her too. Mrs. Rodriguez from the market invited her to a church potluck. A young farmer named Luis showed her his innovative greenhouse system and asked for her thoughts on marketing his specialty peppers. The owner of the general store, Mr. Patterson, started saving the local newspaper for her because she'd mentioned wanting to understand the agricultural economy better. For the first time in her life, Maya had real friends. Not people who tolerated her or pitied her, but people who genuinely enjoyed her company. They valued her opinion, laughed at her jokes, and included her in their lives. One Saturday, Luis invited her to a bonfire gathering with other young farmers from the area. Maya almost said no out of old habit, but something pushed her to say yes instead. The bonfire was warm and welcoming. About a dozen people sat around talking, sharing food, playing guitar. Maya found herself relaxing, laughing, joining conversations about everything from the best organic pest control to terrible reality TV shows. "You're good people, Maya," Luis said at one point. "I'm glad you moved here." "I didn't really move here," Maya heard herself say. "I was sent here as punishment." The words hung in the air. She hadn't meant to say them, but once they were out, she couldn't take them back. Luis raised an eyebrow. "Some punishment. You seem pretty happy to me. Was she happy?" Maya sat with that question as she stared into the fire. Yeah, she realized. She actually was. Back at the farmhouse that night, she found Uncle Chen sitting on the porch looking out over the dark fields. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said, sitting beside him, always. "Why do you live like this? I mean, you could probably make more money doing something else." "The work is hard and you're not getting any younger." She immediately regretted the last part. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" Uncle Chen chuckled. "It's okay. I am getting older. And you're right, I could have done other things with my life. Your father certainly thought I was crazy for staying here. So why did you?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because money isn't the same as wealth. I wake up every morning and work land that's been in our family for 3 generations. I grow food that feeds people. I know every inch of this soil, every tree, every season's rhythm. That's wealth to me, real wealth. Maya thought about her stepmother's mansion, filled with expensive things that nobody really cared about. Then she thought about this simple farmhouse where every object had a purpose and a story. I think I understand, she said softly. Your father understood too, eventually. Right before he died, he called me. Said he wished he'd appreciated this life more when he was young. Said he hoped you'd get a chance to experience it someday. Maya's throat tightened. He said that? He loved you very much. He worried about you, especially about how your stepmother treated you after he got sick. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. I miss him so much, I know. I miss him too. Uncle Chen patted her hand. But I see him in you every day. Your determination, your kindness, that stubborn streak that won't let you quit even when things are hard. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of wind through the crops. The next morning, Maya's phone buzzed with a notification. A text from Victoria. Having engagement photos redone next week. Mother says you should come home for them. Your family, after all. Maya stared at the message. 3 months ago, she would have jumped at the chance to go back, to be included, to be considered family again. But now, she thought about the life she'd built here. The friends who actually cared about her. The work that made her feel capable and strong. The man who'd shown her more genuine love in 3 months than her stepmother had in 3 years. She typed back. Thanks, but I can't. Too much work to do here. Have a beautiful wedding. Victoria's response came quickly. Seriously? You're choosing farm work over your sister's wedding? Maya smiled as she typed. She's not my sister. And yes, I am. She blocked the number and slipped her phone in her pocket. It felt liberating. That afternoon, Uncle Chen taught her how to drive the old farm truck. She stalled it 5 times before getting the hang of the clutch. But when she finally drove smoothly around the property, she felt like she'd conquered a mountain. You're a quick learner, Uncle Chen said. Soon you won't need me at all. Don't say that, Maya said quickly. The thought of losing him, of losing this life, made her chest tight with panic. I'm not going anywhere yet, he assured her. But it's good to know you could handle things if you needed to. As summer shifted toward fall, Maya noticed Uncle Chen moving a bit slower some mornings. He brushed off her concerns, saying it was just old age and stiff joints. But she started taking on more of the heavy work without being asked, wanting to make things easier for him. One morning, she woke to find Uncle Chen hadn't come out for the early chores. She knocked on his bedroom door. Uncle Chen, you okay? A weak voice answered. Not feeling great today. You mind handling things on your own? Of course not. Do you need anything? Just some rest. Maya did all the morning work herself, proud that she knew exactly what needed to be done. But when lunchtime came and Uncle Chen still hadn't emerged, she started to worry. She knocked again. No answer. Uncle Chen? She opened the door and found him pale and sweating in bed. Uncle Chen. I'm fine, he mumbled. Just a little dizzy, but he wasn't fine. Maya could see that clearly. She called the local doctor, who arrived within 20 minutes and immediately said Uncle Chen needed to go to the hospital. The ambulance ride was the longest 30 minutes of Maya's life. She held Uncle Chen's hand, watching the monitors, praying to anyone who would listen that he'd be okay. At the hospital, they admitted him right away. Heart problems, the doctor said. Not a full attack, but serious. He'd need tests, observation, maybe surgery. Maya sat in the waiting room, her mind racing. She'd only just found this life, this place where she finally felt like she belonged. She couldn't lose it now. She couldn't lose him. A nurse came out several hours later. He's stable. Asking for you, Maya rushed to his room. Uncle Chen looked small and frail in the hospital bed, so different from the strong farmer she'd come to know. Don't look so worried, he said weakly. I'm too stubborn to die. You better be, Maya said, trying to smile through her tears. There's something I need to tell you, Uncle Chen said. About the farm. About your father. About things I should have told you sooner. Rest first, Maya said. We can talk later. No, now, while I'm thinking clearly. He gestured to the small closet in the hospital room. My wallet. There's a key in there, small brass key. Maya found it and held it up. That key opens a safe deposit box at the bank in town. Box number 347, everything you need to know is in there. Uncle Chen, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. Just promise me you'll open it. Promise me you'll read everything inside before you make any decisions. Decisions about what? But Uncle Chen's eyes were already closing, exhaustion pulling him under. Maya sat beside his bed holding the small brass key, wondering what secrets it would unlock and if she was ready to face them. Maya spent 2 days barely leaving Uncle Chen's hospital room. She slept in an uncomfortable chair, ate vending machine food, and watched the monitors like her staring could somehow keep him stable. The doctors said he was improving, but they wanted to run more tests. His heart was weak, they explained. Years of hard work had taken their toll. On the 3rd morning, a nurse gently suggested Maya should go home, shower, and get some real rest. I'll call you if anything changes, the nurse promised. He's sleeping anyway. You need to take care of yourself too. Maya reluctantly agreed. She drove Uncle Chen's truck back to the farm, her hands gripping the steering wheel tight. The property looked strange without him there. Empty, like it was holding its breath waiting for him to return. She fed the animals and watered the plants on autopilot, her mind elsewhere. The brass key felt heavy in her pocket. Uncle Chen had said to open the safe deposit box at the bank, but part of her was afraid of what she'd find. After finishing the morning chores, Maya showered and changed into clean clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. Strong arms, clear skin, confident posture. When had all of that happened? She grabbed the key and drove into town. The bank was small and old-fashioned, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. The manager, Mrs. Chen, no relation to Uncle Chen despite the same last name, greeted her warmly. How's he doing? Mrs. Chen asked with genuine concern. We heard about the hospital. Getting better, Maya said. He asked me to check his safe deposit box. Mrs. Chen's expression shifted to something Maya couldn't quite read. Surprise? Concern? Box 347, I'll take you to it. In the small private room, Mrs. Chen left Maya alone with the metal box. Maya's hand shook as she inserted the key and opened it. Inside were stacks of papers, folders, and documents. She pulled everything out and started reading. The first document was a property deed, not just for Uncle Chen's farm, but for 7 other properties. Large parcels of land, some undeveloped, some leased to other farmers. Maya's eyes widened as she saw the total acreage. Over 800 acres. The next folder contained bank statements. She had to read the numbers 3 times before her brain accepted what she was seeing. Millions of dollars. Uncle Chen had millions of dollars sitting in various accounts and investments. This can't be right, she whispered to herself. But it was. Document after document proved it. Uncle Chen owned a small agricultural empire, all of it managed quietly from his simple farmhouse. The land values alone were staggering, especially with the way rural property near the city had been appreciating. Maya found letters next. Correspondence between Uncle Chen and her father going back decades. Her hands trembled as she read them. In one letter from 15 years ago, her father wrote, I know you think I'm making a mistake marrying her, but I love her. She makes me happy, and maybe with the money from my share I can give Maya the life she deserves. Uncle Chen's response was careful but clear. Take what you need, brother. But remember that money and happiness aren't the same thing. That woman loves your wallet more than she loves you. I pray I'm wrong. Maya's heart ached reading her father's later letters. He'd realized the truth too late. Her stepmother had married him for his money, and once she'd secured her position, she'd turned cold. The letters from her father's final year were heartbreaking. He worried constantly about Maya, about what would happen to her after he was gone. In his last letter, written just weeks before he died, her father wrote, If something happens to me, please look after Maya. She's strong, but she doesn't know it yet. That woman will destroy her spirit if given the chance. Maybe the farm could teach Maya what I never could, that her worth isn't measured by what others think of her. Tears streamed down Maya's face as she read. Her father had planned this. He'd asked Uncle Chen to take her in, to save her from the toxic environment she'd been living in. There was one more document at the bottom of the box. A will. Uncle Chen's will. Maya almost put it back without reading, feeling like she was invading his privacy. But something made her open it. The words blurred as she tried to process what she was seeing. Uncle Chen had left everything to her. The land, the money, the farm, all of it. But there was a condition. She had to run the farm herself for at least 5 years. maintaining it as a working agricultural property, and keeping the current farmhands and tenant farmers employed. A note was attached in Uncle Chen's handwriting. If you're reading this, I've either died or come close enough to make me think clearly. Maya, everything I told you about wealth was true. This land, this life, it's real wealth. But it's also worth a fortune in money. I'm leaving it to you because you've proven you understand the difference. Your father would be proud of the woman you've become. Use this gift wisely. Build something that matters. Maya sat in that small bank room and sobbed. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just overwhelming tears of too many emotions at once. Uncle Chen wasn't a simple farmer scraping by. He was a wealthy man who chose to live simply because that's what brought him peace, and he was giving all of it to her. She carefully gathered all the documents and drove back to the hospital in a daze. Uncle Chen was awake when she arrived, looking better than he had in days. You opened it, he said. It wasn't a question. Maya pulled a chair close to his bed. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Would you have worked harder if you'd known I was rich? Would you have learned the same lessons? She thought about that. No, probably not. She would have treated it differently, treated him differently. Your father and I built all of this together, Uncle Chen continued. Started with just my farm and his business sense. We invested in land when nobody else saw its value. When he got married, your stepmother convinced him to take his share in cash and stocks. I kept the land. Turned out the land was the better choice. She has no idea, does she? She thinks you're just a poor farmer. That's what she sees because that's all she values. Money she can spend immediately. She sold most of your father's stocks years ago to fund her lifestyle. Uncle Chen's expression hardened. She took everything your father left you. The college fund, the trust, all of it. Legally, there was nothing I could do. But this, he gestured vaguely at the documents in Maya's hands. This she can't touch. Maya felt anger rising in her chest. She stole from me? She's your legal guardian until you turn 21. She had access to everything your father left in your name. I'm sorry, Maya, I couldn't stop her. So you brought me here. I brought you here to teach you who you really are, to show you that you're capable and strong and worthy no matter what she told you. The money, the land, that's just a bonus. You would have been successful anyway once you believed in yourself. A knock interrupted them. Maya turned to see her stepmother standing in the doorway with Victoria and Catherine behind her. Maya's stomach dropped. How did they find out? How did they know to come? Her stepmother's eyes were sharp and calculating as they swept the room, landing on the documents in Maya's lap. Even from a distance, she seemed to recognize what they were. Maya, darling, her stepmother said with false sweetness, we've been so worried about you. When we heard about your uncle's hospitalization, we came immediately. How did you know? Maya asked, instinctively clutching the papers tighter. Victoria stepped forward, her phone in hand. You're tagged in like a dozen Facebook posts from people in this town. Prayers for Uncle Chen and all that. It wasn't hard to figure out. Catherine's eyes were locked on the documents. What are those? Nothing that concerns you, Uncle Chen said firmly from his hospital bed. His voice was weak but steady. Her stepmother moved closer, her smile not reaching her eyes. Now. We're family. Surely there are no secrets between family members. She turned to Maya. You look wonderful, by the way. The farm life certainly agrees with you. I'm glad this little punishment worked out. The word punishment hit Maya like a slap. That's still how her stepmother saw it. Not a gift, not a new life, just a punishment that happened to have positive side effects. We should discuss your return home, her stepmother continued. You've learned your lesson. It's time to come back to your real life. This is my real life, Maya said quietly. Don't be ridiculous. You can't seriously plan to stay here and play farmer forever. You have responsibilities, family obligations. The only obligation she has, Uncle Chen interrupted, is to herself. And she's staying here. Her stepmother's expression hardened. That's not your decision to make. I'm her legal guardian. For 8 more months, Uncle Chen corrected. And then she's free to make her own choices. Choices that don't include you. The room fell silent. Victoria and Catherine exchanged glances. They knew something was happening, something involving money, but they couldn't quite figure out what. Her stepmother's eyes narrowed at the papers still clutched in Maya's hands. What exactly is in those documents? Maya looked at Uncle Chen, who gave her a slight nod. She could tell them or not. It was her choice. Nothing you need to worry about, Maya said, standing up and facing her stepmother directly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel small or scared or worthless. I'm not coming home. I'm staying here. This is where I belong. You're making a huge mistake, her stepmother hissed, her mask of kindness completely gone. When you come crawling back, and you will, don't expect me to welcome you with open arms. I won't come crawling back, Maya said firmly. I don't need you anymore. I never did. Victoria grabbed her mother's arm. Mom, let's just go. She's clearly lost her mind out here. They left in a storm of angry whispers and pointed looks. Through the hospital room window, Maya watched them get into their expensive car and drive away. That felt good, Maya admitted, sitting back down. Uncle Chen smiled weakly. I imagine it did. Your father would have cheered. What happens now? Maya asked. Now? Uncle Chen closed his eyes, exhausted but content. Now you live your life, the real one, the one you choose. Maya looked down at the documents that represented her future. A future she never could have imagined 6 months ago when she'd arrived at that farm feeling worthless and broken. She thought about everything she'd learned, everything she'd become. And she knew exactly what she wanted to do. Uncle Chen came home from the hospital 2 weeks later. The doctor said he needed rest, light activity only, and someone to keep an eye on him. Maya took on that role without hesitation. I can still work, Uncle Chen protested when she wouldn't let him lift anything heavier than a watering can. And you will, Maya assured him. But right now you're going to sit on that porch and tell me what needs doing. I've got the rest. She'd hired 2 local teenagers to help with the heaviest work, paying them from the farm's operating account. It felt strange having access to so much money, but she was careful with it. Just because Uncle Chen had millions didn't mean she needed to spend it. The farm ran smoothly under her management. She'd learned well over the past months. The animals were healthy, the crops were thriving, and the business relationships Uncle Chen had built over decades remained strong. But Maya wanted to do more. One evening, she sat with Uncle Chen on the porch with a notebook full of ideas. What if we expanded? She said, not bigger but better. What if we turned part of the property into an educational farm? People could visit, learn about sustainable agriculture, see where their food comes from. Uncle Chen raised an eyebrow. City folk coming to my farm? Our farm, Maya corrected gently. And yes, think about it. Kids these days think food comes from grocery stores. They have no idea what real farming looks like. We could teach them. Plus, it would create jobs for people in town. And you'd run this? I'd hire someone with experience to help, but yes, I'd run it. Maya felt a surge of confidence saying those words. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined managing anything. Now she was planning an entire business expansion. Uncle Chen was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. Your father had big ideas too. Always thinking ahead. Do it. Make it happen. Over the next month, Maya threw herself into planning. She enrolled in online business courses, met with agricultural consultants, and drew up detailed proposals. Luis helped her design a visitor center. Mrs. Rodriguez connected her with a retired teacher who could develop educational programs. The town rallied around the project. They'd seen Maya transform from a sad city girl into a capable young woman who genuinely cared about their community. They wanted to see her succeed. She was in the middle of a planning meeting at the local coffee shop when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Maya, it's your stepmother. The voice was cold and formal. We need to talk. Maya's stomach tightened, but she kept her voice steady. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Oh, I think we do. I've been doing some research into your uncle's finances. Seems the poor old farmer isn't so poor after all. Of course, Maya should have known her stepmother wouldn't let it go. What do you want? What's rightfully yours? Or rather, what's rightfully mine as your guardian? Any inheritance you receive while under my care is subject to my management. I haven't inherited anything, Maya said carefully. Uncle Chen is very much alive. But there's property, assets. I've looked into it. As your legal guardian, I have rights. You have nothing, Maya interrupted, her voice harder than she'd ever heard it. And in 6 months, you won't even have guardianship. I'll be 21 and you'll be nothing to me. How dare you speak to me like that? After everything I've done for you? Everything you've done? You mean stealing my college fund? Spending the money my father left for me? Making me feel worthless every single day? Maya was standing now, her voice rising. People in the coffee shop were staring, but she didn't care. I know everything. Uncle Chen told me. You took it all and left me with nothing. There was silence on the other end. You can't prove any of that, her stepmother finally said, but her voice wavered. Maybe not, but I don't need to. I don't need anything from you. Not your money, not your approval, nothing. Stay away from me. Stay away from Uncle Chen. We're done. Maya hung up and blocked the number. Her hands were shaking, but she felt powerful. She'd stood up to the woman who'd controlled her with fear and shame for years. Luis, who'd been sitting across from her during the call, whistled low. That was intense. That was necessary, Maya said, sitting back down. Now where were we? Something about the greenhouse design? 2 months later, Maya woke up to her 21st birthday. Uncle Chen had made pancakes, a rare treat, and presented her with a small wrapped box. Inside was a leather journal worn with age. That was your grandmother's, Uncle Chen explained. She kept records of everything on this farm for 40 years. Thought you might want to continue the tradition. Maya flipped through pages of notes about weather patterns, crop rotations, life events. Her grandmother's handwriting was neat and precise, full of practical wisdom and occasional personal thoughts. On the last written page was a note. This land holds our history, our sweat, our love. Whoever tends it next, I hope they understand what a gift it truly is. I do understand, Maya whispered. Thank you. Happy birthday, Uncle Chen said softly. You're officially an adult now, free to make your own choices. I choose to stay, Maya said without hesitation. I choose this life. That afternoon, she drove to the bank and signed the final paperwork, making her co-owner of all Uncle Chen's properties. He'd insisted on doing it while he was still alive, wanting to see her take ownership of her future. The farm transformation project launched in the spring. Green Roots Educational Farm opened with a small ceremony attended by what felt like the entire town. Children ran through the fields, city families marveled at the vegetable gardens, and educators praised the hands-on learning stations Maya had created. Her stepmother tried one last time to interfere, sending lawyers with claims to Maya's inheritance. But Maya's lawyers, some of the best money could buy, shut down every attempt. The money and land were in Uncle Chen's name, and he was very much alive. When he did pass someday, Maya would inherit it as an adult, far beyond her stepmother's reach. Eventually, the calls and letters stopped. Her stepmother realized she'd lost, and Maya suspected she'd moved on to controlling Victoria and Catherine's lives instead. Maya didn't waste energy hating her stepmother anymore. She was too busy building something beautiful. A year after her birthday, the farm was thriving. The educational program hosted thousands of visitors. The organic produce business had tripled. Maya had hired 15 employees from the local community, and her tenant farmers were more prosperous than ever. She stood in the main field one morning, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Her body was strong and healthy now, but that wasn't the biggest change. The biggest change was inside her, the way she saw herself, the way she moved through the world with confidence and purpose. Uncle Chen walked up beside her, moving slower than he used to but with steady determination. You've done good work here, he said. We've done good work, Maya corrected. No, this is all you. I just gave you the opportunity. You did the rest. Maya thought back to that scared, broken girl who'd arrived here 18 months ago. The girl who thought she was being punished, who believed she was worthless, who couldn't imagine a future beyond the pain of her present. That girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew her worth, who'd built a business, who'd created a community, who'd turned a punishment into a purpose. I got a call yesterday, Maya said, from Victoria. Uncle Chen looked at her questioningly. She's getting divorced. Apparently her husband turned out to be as shallow and controlling as our stepmother. She asked if she could visit the farm. What did you say? Maya smiled. I said yes. Not because I forgive everything, but because I understand now that hurt people hurt people. Maybe being here will help her the way it helped me. You've got a good heart, Uncle Chen said. I learned from the best. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the farm wake.